3 weeks. Nobody sat with her in 3 weeks. That ends today.
The mess hall of Orbital Station Series 9 buzzed with the usual clatter of trays and tired voices, the low hum of recycled air, and the constant murmur of 600 people trying not to look at each other for too long. But at the corner table by the viewport, silence had become its own kind of noise, heavier than the rest, impossible to ignore. Vessa Kathleen sat alone, as she had every day for 3 weeks. Her pale violet skin caught the sterile overhead light strangely, almost luminous against the gray walls, and the twin bony ridges along her jaw, a marker of her species, the Threnari, made her impossible to overlook and impossible to approach. She was the last of her kind on the station, a diplomatic liaison nobody had asked for, and nobody wanted to sit near. Her tray sat mostly untouched most days. She had learned to eat quickly, quietly, with her eyes fixed on the stars outside the viewport rather than the room behind her. Humans still remembered the war. 3 years of peace hadn't erased 30 years of scars, and no treaty, however carefully worded, could reach into a mess hall and make people forget the sound of alarms or the names read aloud at memorials. Kael Ferris noticed her the way he noticed everything at his job, quietly, from behind the serving counter, while ladling reconstituted stew onto trays. He was 41, going gray at the temples, the kind of man who'd spent 2 decades in this cafeteria because the routine steadied something in him that the war had shaken loose years ago. He'd lost his brother in that war. He had every reason to hate the ridges on her jaw. He didn't. Instead, something in him softened every time he watched her sit down alone, and every day that softness grew a little heavier to carry in silence. For 3 weeks he watched her sit down, eat alone, and leave without a word to anyone. Each day the same. Each day, something in his chest tightened a little more. On the 22nd day, Kael untied his apron, plated 2 trays instead of 1, and walked across the mess hall floor like it was the longest hallway in the galaxy. Every human head turned. Someone's fork stopped halfway to their mouth. Conversations died mid-sentence. "Mind if I sit?"
Kael asked.
Vessa looked up, startled. Her eyes, dark gold, almost amber, held the particular exhaustion of someone who had learned not to expect kindness.
"You don't have to do that," she said.
Her voice was careful, measured, like she'd rehearsed rejection so many times it came out smoother than acceptance ever could. "I know I don't," Kael said, setting the tray down anyway. "I want to." He sat. He ate. He didn't ask her about the war, didn't ask about the Threnari homeworld, didn't ask why she was here alone. He just asked if the stew tasted as bad to her as it did to him. It didn't. Threnari palates registered salt differently, and for the first time in 3 weeks, Vessa laughed. It was a small thing. A cracked, rusty sound, like a door opening after years of being shut. But the whole mess hall heard it, and the whole mess hall went quiet in a different way now. Not hostile silence, but the silence of people quietly recalibrating what they thought they knew. Word spread fast on a station of 600 souls. By the next day, 2 more trays joined their table. A maintenance tech named Odalise who'd heard the laugh and wanted to see it again, and a young ensign named Priya who said, simply, that she was tired of eating alone too. By the end of the week, the corner table wasn't empty space anymore. It was the loudest table in the mess hall. But not everyone recalibrated. Station Security Chief Dorian Vasquez had lost his wife in the Threnari War. He watched the growing table from across the room with a jaw tighter than the day before, and something in him refused to soften. On the 28th day, he made his move, a formal complaint to the station commander, citing unauthorized fraternization with a hostile species representative, and demanding Vessa's diplomatic credentials be reviewed. The hearing was set for the following morning. Kael stood before Commander Reyes with nothing but the truth in his hands. "She's not hostile," Kael said, his voice steady.
"She's tired.
She's grieving. She lost people in that war too. Her father, her brother, same as I lost mine. I didn't sit with her, because I forgave the war. I sat with her, because I was done letting it eat another meal." Vessa spoke next, her voice steadier now than it had been in weeks. "I came to this station believing peace, was a signature on a treaty. I've learned it's a tray set down on a table. Chief Vasquez lost someone. So did I.
So did Kael.
The war already took everything it's going to take from us. I won't let it take lunch, too. Commander Reyes was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked at Vasquez. The complaint is denied. And Chief, the table's open to you too, if you ever want it. Vasquez didn't sit that day. He kept his distance for weeks, watching the corner table from afar. But 3 weeks later, on a Tuesday nobody would remember for any other reason, he crossed the floor himself, set his tray down across from Vessa without a word, and she slid the salt shaker toward him anyway. The mess hall of Series 9 never went back to how it was. The corner table stayed full, Threnari and human trays side by side, ridges and scars and gray temples all sharing the same bad stew under the same viewport, looking out at the same stars they'd once been trained to fear. Kael never called it forgiveness. He called it lunch. But everyone on that station, in their own quiet way, knew what it really was.